The famous writer Plutarch said that it took 20 years to build the Great Pyramid. However, the true story is much more interesting than that. So let us find out how the pharaoh built the Great Pyramid and what secrets the ancient Egyptians hid from the whole world. Many people still don't know this, but the pyramids weren't always in Egypt. There were many more pyramids in other countries, such as the Nubian pyramids in Sudan. But over time, these structures collapsed and only one Great Pyramid survived, the one at Giza. It's hard to believe, but when the first tourists came to Egypt, they were very disappointed. They said that the structure looked like an anthill from afar. To make it more attractive, the guides started to tell legends about the pyramids. And one of them is the story of the Egyptian engineer Hemi and Pharaoh Khufu. However, the name of the real architect of the pyramid is lost to history, and we can only guess his name. According to some sources, it was Hemi, but most likely it was someone else. We also don't know exactly when the construction began because there are several versions. But according to the most common one, it happened in 2580 BC. But even after all these years, archaeologists haven't found the entrance to the secret chambers inside the pyramid, so it's impossible to say for sure. But back to our story. So the pharaoh dreamed of building a huge pyramid that would become a symbol of his power. In those days, everything was measured in cubits, and each cubit was equal to about half a meter. The height of the future pyramid was to be 481 cubits, or 258 meters. That's about 30 feet tall, and this is not the final size of the structure. Over time, it was supposed to be 550 feet, but it never happened. In addition to the huge size, the pharaoh wanted to decorate the pyramid with beautiful drawings and put his treasures inside. He assembled a team of architects, artists, and treasure makers, and together they prepared for the construction. At that time, all the preparations for the construction took almost 2 years. This is because the materials had to be delivered to the construction site, tools had to be sharpened, and laborers had to be hired. Moreover, Khufu decided to build another pyramid next to the first one, which would be a copy of the first, but only half the size. And then he thought that when he died, he would rule the afterlife the same way he ruled Egypt, and therefore, he needed two pyramids. And finally, the construction began. As you probably already guessed, the workers didn't have any modern equipment, so they had to do everything manually. At first, the Egyptians transported limestone blocks, which were supposed to be the foundation of the pyramid. Each block weighed about 2.5 tons. And if you think this isn't much, just try lifting this weight. Then the workers started raising granite blocks to build the lower part of the pyramid. These blocks were much heavier, about 5 tons each. The limestone blocks were taken to the construction site from the nearby Giza plateau. And the granite was delivered from the south of Egypt. The thing is that the Egyptians didn't want to use too much granite because it was very expensive. So they only used it inside the pyramid and near the base. The rest of the structure was built from limestone. But the biggest problem was that the limestone blocks had to be lifted to a great height. To solve this problem, the Egyptians came up with ramps and levers. But sometimes even this wasn't enough and the workers had to resort to using a crane. Archaeologists recently discovered evidence of this in the form of a groove in the stone. This proves that the Egyptians used a crane that could lift blocks weighing up to 8 tons. By the way, the crane is considered one of the greatest inventions of the ancient world, and it was invented by the ancient Egyptians. Despite all the difficulties, the work was progressing quite quickly. Every year, the pyramid grew higher and higher, and the workers set new records. After about 15 years of construction, the builders realized that they were nearing the end. They started making the upper part of the pyramid where the black granite was used. And it was really beautiful because the sun's rays reflected from its surface. However, there wasn't enough granite, so the last 3 layers of the pyramid were made of limestone. That's how the Egyptians built the Great Pyramid in 27 years. And all this was done without modern equipment and technology. But unfortunately, over time, the top of the pyramid collapsed, and now only the base remains. Nevertheless, the Pyramid at Giza is still the oldest and only surviving wonder of the ancient world. And this fact alone makes it incredibly popular. What's your favorite ancient structure? And do you know any interesting facts about the pyramids? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Bye!